with the guys and
Yeah.
their
The
vaginas?
gentiles. With the gentiles?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The better one, these guys were great, because then they were like the quintessential students. And here's the thing, when I give the
Do you have
information...
like a 15-minute, like, is there a warm-up? Do you have that minute where they're like, what is she going to show me?
Sure.
And then it kind of...
I use sports analogies with them.
I like that.
I golf. I asked them, gentlemen, any of you golf? And they go, like, and I said, great. I said, do any of you have a special course that you play? And they'll go, like your home course? They go, yeah. I said, think of that as your partner's body. I said, so you may play that course an awful lot, like regularly, maybe once a week. But I said, I can assure you, your approach shot does not end up in the same place at the front of the green. Different every time. And they go like this, they go like this. I said, okay, so we know that. I said, and also, gentlemen, you have different sticks in your bag. You have shorter and longer. You have different angles. You also, now here's the thing, fortunately you don't change your balls, but that also can dramatically change your game. And I said, and also, fortunately we don't move the hole. But, they change the placement of the pin every day. So, the sports analogies, they were like this. I said, so thinking you've played that course exactly the same way, you don't know the condition of the green until you get there. It changes from morning to afternoon. You don't know whether or not, and by the way, for the guys who are club whores who keep using different clubs, thankfully you don't have to do that. Because there are some guys who just have to get the new club every time. And they just don't, the game never gets any better. But really, it is practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
So I use the sports analogies with them. I will ask if there's some guy in the group that I know, and I'll ask the other men, I said, is there anyone who, would be fun, or we can play with, or we can do whatever we want with? And they're like, yeah, so-and-so. I said, okay, we'll work with that. We'll bring him out. We'll bring him out. And with doctors, I admit.
You have fun.
I do. I asked, I said, gentlemen, are there any doctors? And there's usually a couple. I said, may I have you come forward, please? And I put table here, and I put one on one end and one on the other. And they'll say, gentlemen, can you please demonstrate with your in-depth medical training where the clitoris is? And usually they can get that. I said,
the doctors can.
The doctors can. I said, can you, because, here's the thing. I know that the majority of physicians, and this is a big if in this country, in North America, if they get 8 hours of education in their 4 years of med school in the area of sexual health, that's a lot, and it's invariably, it is optional.
And really basic.
Or it might be something they'll talk about sex addiction.
Yeah.
Which of course is a hot button topic in our area.
Right. Yeah.
But they'll talk about STDs, they won't talk about pleasure, they won't talk about function, they won't talk about, because here's the thing, for most men, when they have an issue with their body and they go to see a physician, one of the first never asked questions is, how is this going to impact my sex life? That never gets asked. And if it does, think of what happens with physicians. And this is not because, they're bad people. It's just they are trained to be the expert and to give referral. So they're trained to do this, but they don't know this area. So they do what most people do. And where does the first 3 areas that people will typically go if they have an issue or a question about a relationship? They go to someone of faith, a rabbi, a priest, an imam, someone. They'll go to someone in the cultural area of faith that they, respect. They will go to a therapist, or they'll go to a physician. And none of those 3 gets any training in the area of sexuality and sexual health. Rarely, if they get, it's rare.
Except for those rare ones who seek it out.
Seek it out, correctly.
They don't get it.
They don't
as
get
a
it.
base.
So what happens is someone goes to see the physician. They ask them the question. They say, "What is going to happen if this would, my hips or something?" The physician does what most people do. They go to the default position, which is their own experiences, and then they don't want to talk about it. So then they just brush it off.
Wow. Oh, don't worry about it.
No, you say there's really nothing to be concerned.
There's really nothing to be. Yeah.
So what I will then say to the physicians who have the gentiles, who have the the genitalia there, the molding, G-spot. Please show these other men where the G-spot is. They never can. No. And I said, gentlemen, you know what? I thank you for being such good sports, because I'll tell you right now, the majority of people don't know. Even women do not know their bodies. And I used Dr. Beverly Whipple, who along with Loudon Cannon Perry named it, and I said, I'll show you, because I got on the phone with her. I said, Beverly, help me. How do I tell women how to find this thing? And what she said, from a very practical standpoint, because that's what I'm known for. I know the physiology, I know the practical, I'll tell you what other people have done, and I'll give you an overview of a whole other group of it. And I said, Beverly, how do we tell women how to find their G-spot? She said, oh, okay, simple. They need to be stimulated. Most women are trying to find it when they're not stimulated. And they're lying on their back. She said they need to stimulate themselves enough, either clitorally or however, and then sort of squat down and feel up inside of them. You know, like if you're using a small, non-applicator tampon, how you would put that in. You use your fingers that way and then feel up and in towards the belly button side. And she said that way you'll be able to feel it. But she said your partner will typically be able to find it more easily, because if it's a male partner, right? Yeah. And because also men's hands tend to be larger than women's, right? And by the way, by the time a man has his hands in that area of a woman's anatomy, she should be pretty turned on.
You hope.
Generally speaking.
You hope.
We hope. Generally speaking. So those are the
or
things
at least
that I
about
do.
to get there.
Right.
Right. So I get the things, I give them the information. It's the fun factor. I mean, my presentations are hilarious. They're absolutely hilarious. And the other thing for men, they can be as outrageous as they want. And it's, to me, it's like part of, they can finally, I don't think it's sophomoric. I mean, to me, it's like they give they say some of the most hilarious things and I lose it half the time.
Well, I'm sure they're testing you. I'm sure there's that moment, the first 15 minutes is all about, like, can I really say this in front of her? Can I, what is she going to judge? Is she going to react? I'm sure there's that testing period.
Because that's what most happens for most people with the subject.
Absolutely.
I do a presentation to a group of kids who were in a group home called Children of the Night.
Oh, I remember you saying that you were going to go do that.
Right, and one of the first time I did it, I came in. Now these are underage. They're so under 18, and they have literally been rescued off the street. They have homeless children who've been forced into prostitution. And the woman who founded it, Dr. Lois Lee, did so when she was a grad student at UCLA. And she would see these young girls and on the street, and she's going like, what are they doing here? And she realized that they were homeless, and it was like survival sex, because that's all they could do.
Right.
They had no, at 15, 16, how are you going to go out and make money?
Right. You can't.
Right. You use your
can't
body.
just apply for a job.
Right. So anyways, the first day when I was doing the presentation for them, it's about 90 minutes, I said, listen, I want you to know this is, and how I met Lois. And people say to Lois, so how did you meet Lou? She said, through Surgeon General David Satcher, because I was on the advisory council for, and she was like, and I said, that's a good, thank you, Lois. I'm going to use that, by the way. But
not a bad reference.
Right, and when she said, someone in her executive assistant said, listen, the kids are asking other questions relative to relationships and sexuality and stuff. I don't know how to answer them. And Lois said, I think I know the perfect person. So
that's wonderful.
And it just touched my heart.
Absolutely.
We all have to do our pro bono work.
Yeah, absolutely.
We all have a thing that we do where we are experts, and our job is to deliver back. It's like that's part of what our stuff is. It's a service thing. Anyway, the first day that I'm there, I have groups sitting there, and I said, listen, this is your presentation. You can ask any question you want. And when I say any question, I mean truly any question. And again, if I don't know, I'm smart enough to know, and I'll go find you the answer. So we're talking about 5 minutes in, a little hand goes up. And I said, I said, please go ahead. And she said, I gotta ask this. I said, what's that? She said, do blue balls exist? I said, no, not necessarily blue, more magenta. But I said, yes. And then that was like the floodgates. And then I said, now this is the blood pools in there, this would be this. And I said, and don't buy that thing of, you caused this, so you've got to get me off. No.
Right.
You can do it yourself, honey.
Right.
Or
that he'll die if this doesn't get out.
Right. And that's what they said. They said, no, we've been told that if you do that, you're responsible. And my mother said that. So
My mother. Oh, that's
Yeah.
a good one.
well, some of them did not have exactly parenting
Well,
101.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.